acknowledge the trauma. We can really relate to that. And for me personally, that tweet meant something to me because that's how I've always felt. That the trauma that I've been through, which is really a lot and awful, really changed me as a person. I remember who I was as a kid. And if I'm going to be honest with you guys, my adult trauma is worse than my childhood trauma because a lot of my childhood trauma I don't remember. I know about it through my family and going through therapy because when I was going to therapy, I don't remember why I was put in it. I was put in therapy by the courts because they felt like because I had been through abuse that I would need an outlet, someone to explain to me as a child that it's not my fault. So, but I don't remember the trauma that put me in there. I just know what I was told that I went through and why I ended up in therapy. But my trauma as an adult, I know, I remember, I understand it. I can tell you vividly, what happened and what was done and what was said. And it definitely changed me because I was a happy kid. I was a happy teenager. And in my before I got into the abusive relationship, the relationship with my daughter's father, that was a physical abuse, I was good. And I don't know why, you end up in an abusive relationship. I'm not even going to blame myself. I'm past that. It is not my fault that someone thought punching me, hitting me, that has nothing to do with me. So I will never take the blame for their actions. But I remember that. And then I also remember the state I was in once I got out of that, went into therapy for that and accepted, what had happened and moved on. And I remember those happy moments. And I feel like subconsciously, maybe I didn't realize how much it really did change me as a person, right? I am definitely not as trustworthy as I could be. I have a wall that I do automatically put up because of the fear of someone either seeing that I have trauma, or I give off a little something that says, "Oh, she's a little jumpy," or she's a little defensive, or all of that stuff that comes along with being someone who has been through abuse. And as a trauma survivor, I crave honesty. I crave authenticity. I had to fight to be loved. I had to fight to be heard. I had to fight for the respect. I had to tell someone, it is not fair that you're treating me this way. And it's a cost, right? It affects me. It costs me my self-esteem, my confidence, all of that stuff. And so I feel like I'm not willing to engage with someone who doesn't understand that. But then I have to own that, right? Because why do I give that in? And that's one of the things I learned in therapy. I said to my therapist once, and I think I said this in my previous episode. I'm sorry if I did. I said to my therapist once, why aren't I enough for this person, whatever the person is in that moment, whether it's my ex, any of my exes, any of my friends, whatever the person is, why aren't I enough? Why don't I mean enough to them to not treat me this way, to not, to be okay with making me feel and me telling you, hey, this bothers me. Hey, this hurts my feelings, and them not caring enough to do a change. And my therapist literally said to me, no, honey, it's not them. It's you. Because why aren't you enough to walk away from someone who's not willing to give you that? If I tell you that this bothers me, if I tell you that this affects me, why isn't that enough? Once they don't do the change, why isn't that? So that's something I learned in my marriage and just in relationships in general, right? I'm allowing, not allowing, but I'm not putting an end to the disrespect, and then it's changing me, right? Because I even said this to someone the other day, the way they treat me makes me so upset, right? Makes me so angry that I then become them, right? And that's I forget the word for when you reverse it. There's a specific thing when you now become that person and they're calm, right? And I'm yelling and I'm screaming and maybe I'm cursing and now I'm angry, and that is my reaction to constantly being triggered, constantly being gaslighted. And now I am the angry one, right? Now I am the one upset. And it's always like, oh, you're mad, you're loud, you're screaming. And it's like, oh, you got to calm down. Oh, you need help. No, this is my reaction to you. This is my reaction to me being tired of this constant abuse. But it's like, you don't have to get there, right? You don't have to get to that point. When you see that this is where it's coming to, this is where you have to leave. So that's one thing that I've learned from my marriage, that I am a part of the problem, because when you see that this is the road that it's going down, walk away, let it go, because at some point you have to take accountability for staying. And I am someone who was physically abused, because I don't want domestic violence victims to think like, oh, it's so easy. It's not easy. Believe me, 5 years of being abused, it is not easy, but it's no different than an alcoholic, a drug addict, mental illness. At some point, you have to get to your rock bottom. At some point, you have to say, this has to end. This has to stop. And so that's even back to my point where I was on the fence, right? I knew that my marriage wasn't healthy. I knew that my marriage was toxic. I knew that no matter what I did, because that's also something I learned in therapy, I realized that it didn't matter how I acted. I could have been the best wife or the worst wife. When your partner is an alcoholic, when your partner suffers from PTSD, when your partner is suffering from depression that has nothing to do with you, their own inner demons, their own battles, there's nothing you can do for that situation until they acknowledge that they have those issues, and not even acknowledge, until they want help for those issues. There's nothing you can do. All you can do is save yourself. And by saving yourself, that may mean ending the relationship. That's what it may mean. And it doesn't even have to be that bad, right? You don't have to be in a relationship with an alcoholic or an addict or someone who suffers from any type of mental illness or just any mental problems, period. Because depression is a mental thing. You could be with somebody who just doesn't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be that bad. If you're constantly telling your partner, hey, I need us to have some time. I need us to connect with each other. I need for us to spend time together. I want us to grow and move forward and build together. And they're not giving you that. They're hanging out with their friends. They're working tons of overtime. They're traveling this world by themselves or with other people. They don't answer your calls. They're not calling you. And obviously if you live with them. But I'm just saying, even if you guys live together, you don't get a phone call throughout the day. You're not coming home asking me how my day was. You're not checking up on me. When we're home together, we're barely speaking. You're on one end, I'm on the other. All of these things. If you're not getting what you need from a relationship, the relationship needs to end. It doesn't have to be an abusive relationship. It could just be the person is not giving you. And I've learned, and I promise you, just either going through therapy and just learning from myself, if they wanted to, they would. And that's actually especially for the non-toxic relationships. The ones where they're not abusing you. They're not calling you names. They're not throwing things at you. They're not putting their hands. They're not doing any of that. They're just not in this. They're not a part of this relationship. They're just not into you. They just don't want it. Because if they wanted it, they wouldn't. And believe me, relationships have ended for two people who wanted it, because sometimes the shit just ain't meant to be. You know what I'm saying? We can do whatever, we can give as much as we want to give, but unfortunately, sometimes it's exactly what it is, not meant to be. So, that's my take on it. It's scary also thinking about what's out there, the single life and dating. And I was just talking to a really good friend of mine who is newly single as well. And it's like the first step of going on that first date again and having to reconnect with a whole other person. I mean, that literally terrifies me. Because I just want to point out that these streets is dry. It is not. I'm out here like, what? This is what's out here, guys. These are the options. These options suck. Oh my goodness, these options freaking suck. And once again, it's back to those. I mean, at least I know what I'm getting from over here, but then you're not giving yourself the best chance, right? Because at least I know what I'm getting from here. That's what you're worth. The least you know, the below bare minimum. I said to someone I was dating, like, oh, I want us to, spend some more time together. I would like it if we, maybe went out, even if we just watched a movie, just some type of engagement. Just can we can we be together? Can we have some quality time? You know what their version of quality time was? Inviting me over to watch them sleep for like 4 hours and then be on the phone for like 2 hours. And then they call that vibing. Guys, that's what they called vibing. I think out of the whole 6 hours I was there, I got like 20 minutes of like, they gave me a hug, patted me on my fucking back, and maybe said a couple of sentences to me, and they weren't even good sentences. They were something, demeaning or hurtful or, not funny, but they think they're funny. But it's like out of all that time, the majority, 90, can I say 90? 90% of it was sleeping and on their phone, but that's what they considered vibing. And I know a lot of you that are listening to this is like, girl, why did you even stay? Why did, because this is what I would say to somebody, right? That's what I would say if one of my friends would tell me that, like, bitch, were you dating a 15-year-old? Because, like, no. And my thing is, if they wanted to engage with me, if they wanted to ask me how my day was, and mind you, this is not someone I lived with. This is not someone whose house I'm at, 4 or 5 times a week. This is not someone who engages in conversation with me a lot. So at this point, you should have had a lot to say to me. You should have asked me, so what's been going on? How's work? How's your new position? What's going on with your kids? How's that? How's your grandmother? What's going on? Oh, this is what's going on over here. Whatever, conversation. Oh, you want to watch a movie? Let's just sit back, chill. Even if sip on something, eat some. Let's sit back and chill, watch a movie, whatever. No, you want to sleep. You want to be on your phone. That's what you're engaging in, right? Because that's engagement. If they wanted to know how your day was, girl, they would have asked you. If they wanted to know how your family was and anything new going on in your life, how you feeling, anything, they would have asked, but they didn't. You know why they didn't ask? Because they don't give a shit. You know why they didn't ask? Because you don't demand the respect. Because if you demand respect, they're either going to say, hey, I'm not going to give you this respect. I'm not going to give you this engagement. Or they would say, oh, I want her. I want her around. I do like her. Let me step my game up. Let me stop acting immature. This is what it is. So that part of life is scary to know that that's what's out there, right? This is what you have to look forward to when you get divorced. This is what you have to look forward to when, you're starting out there, you're starting dating. And, yeah, and it's nothing I'm looking forward to. And the sucky part is I'm not a dater. You know what I'm saying? By that, I mean, I don't mind, obviously, the dating part, meeting somebody, going out to restaurants, interacting with them, that part is fine, but I'm not someone who can date 4 or 5 guys or 4 or 5 women, because I do like both at one time. I don't want to do that, and I honestly, I don't got the time. I work too much. But I'm a relationship girl, and that's not something I'm going to pretend I'm not. I understand that you do have to date. You know, you can't just dive into the first thing you see. No, I get that. But like I said, I'm someone who likes to be in a relationship because the truth is, I like being able to